Sarah here, and it has been a minute since I filmed. So the last couple months I have been really emotional, and I just have not been in the right frame of mind to film, so I do apologize for my absence, but I thank you to all of you who have stuck around and been very patient with me, waiting for my answers to the Q&A that I asked. It seems like forever ago. But I will also be announcing the giveaway winner, which I'm very excited about, so let's just go ahead and get on into the questions. So one of the first questions I got was, what underrated book do you think deserves more hype? For this, I picked Enchantress of the Stars by Sylvia Engel. Alright, I'm gonna have to get behind this. So another thing that I've been doing like the last couple months is trying to get used to my new camera, which has a much smaller screen on it. So if this gets out of focus like at all, I apologize. This filming setup is entirely new to me. So Enchantress from the Stars by Sylvia Engel is actually this book that really transcended a lot of what I feel regarding fantasy and science fiction. It was a little bit of both, actually. So it wasn't just like a science fiction novel. There was a couple different perspectives. There's this advanced alien race that's kind of like anthropologists that go from place to place trying to help every civilization that they come into contact with. When it's told from their perspective, it's a science fiction. When it's told from the planet's natives' perspective, it's more of a fantasy. And then they have these colonists like there that are trying to take over the entire planet. And when it's told from their perspective, it kind of feels very relatable to modern day. And what I mean by modern day is the present day, here and now, that you and I live in. So this, I really don't feel like this has been talked about all that much. I remember that I believe this was actually published in the 1970s. So it is definitely different and definitely probably like a little bit older like than anything that I've ever read before. But I really appreciated how many different perspectives and how like it kind of bent and twisted my mind like a little bit in regards to perspectives. So I really think that this is really underhyped, and I don't feel like this gets enough of attention. And I absolutely love this book when I read it. The next question is, do you ever consider doing a live Q&A video sometime in the future? So I actually have thought about doing this. I would eventually like to do live streamings, live discussions, a lot of stuff live, because I just feel like it's so wonderful to be able to interact with everyone. And so I would love to eventually be able to get to that point where I'm comfortable in front of the camera enough to be able to go on and be live and discuss things with you guys. I'm actually been considering on starting with my Instagram page, so if you guys haven't followed me on there, I've been actually a little bit more active on there because emotionally it's been easier for me to be on there, but I would like to eventually get to a point like where I'm comfortable enough doing on YouTube, and I feel like starting on Instagram would be a great way to get started with that. The next question is, what book surprised you the most in a good way? So this was a book that I recently read, and I really enjoyed the other book that I read by her. I wasn't expecting to really enjoy this newest book by her because it was just so different from the other thing that I read by her. So it was Daisy Jones and the Six. So when I first heard about this book, when I first saw it, like I was just like, oh, whatever, it's another Taylor Jenkins Reid book. I don't see how it could top The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I'm not saying that this book topped that by any means, because Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo was phenomenal. But what I will say about this book is that it was so different. I felt like I was watching one of those old VH1 movies where you got to hear everything from the band's perspective about how the band got started, how it progressed, and you got so many different perspectives, and it was great because like this was told in an interview style fashion where you have a bunch of different people like that were involved in the making of this band. You have all of these people like that are just kind of putting their 2 cents in about this band, not just people in the band, but like their managers and people that knew them and everything. And it was so different from anything that I've ever read, but I really liked that whole like old school rock and roll feel. And it wasn't better than Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but it was really good in its own way. And so I was really shocked when I read this, and I actually really ended up enjoying it. The next question is what is your favorite book to movie adaptation? So I thought about this one, and honestly, I really like, of course, the Harry Potter adaptations, but I liked the adaptations from movies 1 through 3 because the longer the books got, the more they had to cut out from the movies. So I feel like the first 3 movies were very close to what the books were, but as you progressed further down into the movie adaptations, they had to cut more and more and more out, and it seems like they were trying to make the movies shorter because of that. I really kind of like wish that they would just turn Harry Potter like into this live action series so that we could get all of it, but that's a whole different discussion. So honestly, like, I loved that. Memoirs of a Geisha was another one I was a huge fan of. Actually, I watched Memoirs of a Geisha before I read the book, and the book goes further than the Memoirs of a Geisha did, and it gets like into, you know, after everything that happens in the movie. And so I got a lot more out of it, and I'm really glad I read it because I don't cry very often with books, but that was definitely one that I cried with. And one more that I really enjoyed, because you can't just pick one when you're thinking of these book to movie adaptations because there are so many good ones that have come out. To All the Boys I've Loved Before, which I actually enjoyed the movie better than I liked the book, which is very rare. But I feel like because the love interests transferred better onto screen than he did into the book, because he felt a little bit less sincere to me in the book than he did on screen. And I absolutely loved who they got to play him, and I just felt like it transferred so much better onto the screen than it was in the book, or came across in the book. So yes, those were the ones that I absolutely adored. What books do you think are overhyped? So for this, I picked the Themis Files by Sylvia Neuville, and the reason why I picked this particular one was because I read the first book, and it's told through multimedia. And when you say multimedia, like you mean, you know, it's told through like different perspectives, it's told through reports, it's told through video footage, it's told through news footage, it's told through various forms. So not too long after I read the Illuminae trilogy by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, it used so many different ways of storytelling that it just kind of blew me away, and I really ended up enjoying that series because of all the different ways like that it told the story, and it was so different from anything that I had ever read before. So when I finally got to Waking Gods, which was the first book in the Themis Files, it seemed like a much narrower field that it was telling the story in. And after reading Illuminae, that was using so many more different avenues to describe the things that were happening, I felt a little spoiled, and I actually decided not to continue on with the Themis Files after the first book. I mean, and it was probably because I was spoiled with the Illuminae trilogy. There's a lot of really good science fiction YA books, but I feel like in this situation, like the Illuminae Files did a much better job of using and utilizing those multimedia formats than the Themis Files did, because the Themis Files started out really strong, and then as time went on, like, they kept narrowing down what type of or avenues they were using to tell the stories, and then they only ended up with 2, and they were alternating it by the end. And I guess I could just say that I'm a little bit spoiled. I kind of feel like that series is way overhyped, and I know that might be an unpopular opinion, and if you love that series, I'm sorry, because you loving that series is still valid, and it's still completely understandable, because the ideas behind it are amazing, which is what led me to wanting to read it in the first place, but I didn't end up enjoying it as much as I had hoped. The next question is what's your most anticipated book release of the year? Well, guys, I can't narrow that down. I got a stack. And these are just the ones that have come out thus far. So for this, I'm not really going to go into too much detail about what the books are about. I'm just going to kind of show you guys what books I've gotten so far, and then I'm also going to just tell you guys like what books are also coming out later on in the year that I am super excited about. So the first book that I got that I'm really excited about that I have not had a chance to read yet because it just came out is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuinton, which is a first boy and first prince kind of like romance. So very excited about this one. The next one is Candle and the Flame by Naviza Azet. This cover though, honestly guys, this cover. Next book is The Devouring Grey by Christine Lynn Herman, which I've already read and I really enjoy this. It's kind of got like that spooky air to it about like this monster that lives in a woods, and it's composed of a town with founders and all of these historical things that are going on like between the founders, and they all have supernatural abilities, and it's just amazing. Next book is Aurora Rising by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, which is a YA science fiction. It's by the same people that made the Illuminae trilogy, and I have to say that I really actually enjoy this more than the Illuminae trilogy. I mean, I know everybody loves the psychotic robot Aiden in Illuminae, but I really love the ragtag group of people that are in this book. So good. The next one is a contemporary, The Bride Test by Helen Hong. I read The Kiss Quotient earlier, actually last year, and I absolutely positively read it in a day, and I absolutely loved it. I could not put it down. So I'm really excited to get this one because a lot of people have really seemed to enjoy this just as much. The next book is Exaltation by Ted Chiang, and this is actually a collection of short stories, science fiction stories. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that movie Arrival, Amy Adams in it. That whole movie is composed of a short story telling that Ted Chiang did in his other book called The Story of Our Lives. And I read that book a few years ago and I absolutely fell in love with all of the short stories in it. And so when I found out that he was coming out with another short story collection, I flipped. I was super psyched. So this is one that I got, and I'm hoping to get to this one also super soon, but as TBR piles go, I'm a mood reader, so we'll see what I get to first. The next book is by Sheena Maguire, Middle Game, which I have been looking forward to since last year, and I haven't gotten to this one yet, but it seems like it's going to be amazing. It's by the same author that wrote the Wayward Children series, and I'm so excited about this one. I don't even have words for it. Next book that I have in my possession is The Priory of the Orange Tree, and this is a brick. This is like almost 1,000 pages. I'm just trying to get up like the nerve like to read this huge manuscript because it is just ridiculous. It's a female-dominated epic fantasy that is a standalone and takes place all in one book, which I'm also very excited about because I won't have to be busy waiting around for a sequel to find out what's going to happen, and I love that. So in conjunction with the books that I already have in my possession, another of the books that I'm really excited about that's coming out is Deviate, which is the second book in the Lifelike trilogy that Jay Kristoff is writing. So that's one of the books that I'm extremely excited about before the end of the year. And of course, in September, he is also coming out with Dark Dawn, which is the third in the Nevernight trilogy, which I absolutely love that as well. I love the grittiness. And if you want gritty assassins and you want a gritty assassin school, that is totally up your alley. It is so amazing, and I highly recommend that trilogy. Another thing that I'm super excited about, which recently I saw that it got pushed back from September to November, is The Toll by Neil Shusterman. And guys, I read Scythe and Thunderhead, and I know like that these books are super hyped, but they are so totally worth the hype. And when I heard that he was coming out with the next book, I freaked because this is going to be what is going to sum up the whole trilogy, and it is definitely one of my favorite books of all time, so I am so excited about it. Just so excited. It's gonna be awesome. Those are just kind of like a few books. I want to kind of like make another video because there's a lot more that's coming out this year. 2019 is the year of anticipated upcoming releases, and it has like been like the best year so far. The next question is which genres do you not read or are less inclined to read? So I don't feel like I'm really scared of trying to dive in to any genre because I am very open-minded when it comes to books, but I'm less inclined to read thrillers, because when I look at the thriller genre as a whole, I see like that overall, I guess like I'm kind of like standoffish about it, because who doesn't want every book that they read to be super amazing and super exciting and just super, you know, like 5-star every book, so that, you know, you have a good reading experience every time that you read. And so like that's like one of the reasons like why us reviewers rating the books and everything else is so important, to kind of let people like know, you know, this is what we thought about the book, and, you know, hopefully you'll enjoy it too. So we all have these aspirations as readers to love everything that we read. When I look at the thriller genre, I just notice overall like that it's got a lower star rating on average than a lot of the other genres that I dive into. So as far as that's concerned, I don't completely write off thrillers, but I don't read as many thrillers as probably most people do. So it's not the fact that I haven't found some thrillers like that I'm really excited. It's not the fact that I haven't found some thrillers that are on my TBR pile that I'm very excited to get to. It's just that happens to be a genre that I read less often than other genres. So the next question is what do you do for work at your day job? So I will say that I am a front desk receptionist, and I'm going to leave it at that, because I don't really want to talk too much about my work in these videos, because, you know, I kind of feel like that job has nothing to do with this, and I mean, it's just a preference, honestly, so I really just won't talk about it, but that's all I'm going to say about that. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking? No, I don't mind you asking from one girl to another, because, you know, guys like to ask you. Usually, like, when a guy asks me, I try to be funny about it. I don't know. But usually what I'll say is just like, how old do I look? And I love that question, because, like, it kind of catches them off guard. But I will say that I am 32 years old, and that's me, 32 years old. Somebody wants to know about what is best for kids as an educational book. Unfortunately, I don't read a ton of kids books. I mean, I read a lot of YA, I read a lot of adult, but unfortunately I really haven't gone in and dove more into the kid genre. But what I will say is that this is the Tea Dragon Society, and I don't know how educational you consider it, but I read this recently and I absolutely think that it's for any age group. I mean, if you're a parent, you'll love it. If you're a kid, you'll love it. And I just feel like it's really worth the read. So this may not be super educational, super enjoyable. So I hope that answers your question to the best of my ability. So the next question is what has been your biggest challenge as a new booktuber? So definitely like making friends. I'm very socially awkward, so I have a real problem with kind of approaching people in general. I mean, if you'd asked me like 10 years ago, or even 2 years ago, like if I would ever be on a public platform like YouTube or Instagram or any of those and talking in front of a camera, I probably would have said that you're nuts. But I'm also a firm believer that you never really know what you're capable of until you try it. And until you try it and until you figure out what your comfort level is, I don't think that you are ever going to really understand how far you can go or what you can do with yourself. And I kind of feel that's what happened to me like after I started creating YouTube videos, because I don't know that I'm the best at this, but I don't feel like I'm the worst either. So I feel like it's kind of been like a struggle for me as far as like interacting with people, like networking. I'm terrible. I'm probably like the worst person ever at social networking. And I am so shy, like I don't even know how to approach people, and half the time, because I'm super insecure on top of things, I usually gravitate into my shell, because I feel in a lot of ways that I don't want to bother people too much, or I'm worried like that if I reach out too much then I'm going to push people away. And being the fact like that people are, you know, very delicate beings and they have their feelings and stuff like that, I am always really worried that I'm going to say something that I didn't realize was the wrong thing, which, you know, is a problem in itself. So honestly, like for me, I think the networking portion of YouTube has been one of my biggest struggles, because I just have a really hard time with saying the right thing or reaching out, and sometimes I don't even have the words because I am a terrible person at small talk, and I've always been a terrible person with small talk because I just feel like there's so many like big ideas like that are floating around my brain like that I'm not even sure like how to approach it, like, you know, just in an average conversation. And that kind of also, when you're bad at small talk, makes it really hard to meet new people. So honestly, like I think like that has been one of my biggest struggles. Also getting into a routine, that's been a big struggle of mine. It's not the fact that I don't want to get to know people or you guys or anything else, but sometimes I am just so bad at saying the right thing and it makes me super self-conscious. So please don't get discouraged if I say like the wrong thing or I don't have the words, because I struggle so much with reaching out to people in general. The next question is what is your favorite book of all time? And you know, I don't think I really have one. I mean, of course, like there's the Harry Potter series, and then everything that I've read by Brandon Sanderson I absolutely have loved to pieces. All the stuff I've read by J. Kristoff, especially the Nevernight series, like I've absolutely loved that. It's like, how can you pick just one? I mean, I can't. It's just, it's not possible. Like, and the fact of it is like, to say like that my favorite book now is going to be my favorite book in a year, because, you know, you're constantly reading new stuff. That's really hard to say. But yeah, I had to go through and change my battery out because it was about to die on me. So let's go ahead and continue on with the questions. So this lady asked me, how did you teach yourself to edit? Because she's older and she's having a little bit of problems learning how to edit. So I guess like my biggest advice for that is just do it. You will get more comfortable with the editing process the more material you will get more comfortable with the editing process with more material that you get, with more recordings. And you know, you're never really good at editing when you first start, because you know, you kind of have to learn how to act in front of the camera too, like pauses before, you know, you hold up a book and then you start talking, so that it's easier for you to parse the edits if you have to. So basically, like, it's not just learning how to edit, it's learning how to be on camera, because let's say like there is this long pause, or if I don't pause in between when I talk, trying to edit when I talk really, really fast is a really difficult thing because it doesn't come off as clean. So, you know, making sure like that, you know, like when I hold up a book, I go through and I pause just before I start talking about it, so like that I know that I can edit it from that pause. So it's not just about learning how to edit, it's learning about how to be in front of the camera if that is what you're deciding to do. It's knowing like when to not talk, when to pause, how many ums you can allow yourself. And so I think it's kind of a little bit of everything. I don't think it's just, you know, like just learning how to edit. I think it's also like learning how to act in front of a camera. So I'm not really sure what else to say past that, but I really hope that kind of helps you. I'm not really sure like what else to say, because I mean, I'm still fairly new to editing and creating things myself, but this far, that's kind of like what I've learned up to this point. Next question is, what two popular fantasy authors would you love to see team up to write a super epic and adventure story? So I thought about this really hard, and I came up with two authors that I would just absolutely love to see get together. J. Kristoff, drum roll please, and Victoria Schwab. I mean, what two better people could we have working as a team together that are both really, really good at writing very gritty fantasy novels? And I recently saw a picture of both of them on Twitter, and people were saying the same thing, like these two people would be awesome at writing books together. So I know I'm not alone in this. I would love to see that. That would be not only an auto buy, like I would have to get every version of the book that they would come out with. And the last question that I have here is, what's your all-time favorite fantasy series with a war aspect? To be perfectly honest, I haven't read a ton of war books. I'm still kind of getting into the war books, but I loved Red Rising. It was amazing for strategy. It sucked me in. I read it in a day. It was wonderfully written, so addictive. I loved the characters. Could not get enough of this. And not to mention like the fact like that it had me like within the first 50 pages, which I can honestly say like it takes me quite a bit to get hooked on pretty much any book. Like I really have to like invest some serious time to get into most books. This hooked me within the first 50 pages, and I will say like that is a thing. That is a real thing. So I mean, this was amazing, and it is a science fiction fantasy novel, and I know it's gotten a lot of hype around BookTube, but I really feel like it was worth it, and I would definitely read it again. Like, I loved it so much. Alright guys, so next is the giveaway winner announcement portion of this video. I'm very excited about this, so let's go ahead and go to the screen like where I randomly pick the winner. Based off the comments that you guys left on my 100 subscriber video that was talking about the Q&A and the giveaway announcement. Alright, congratulations to our winner. I am so excited to be able to share books with you, and I hope you like what you get. We will discuss like this, and I will be contacting you fairly shortly after this video goes through. I am so excited, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm not planning on taking as long of a break this time as I did last time, and so I am very excited to be able to share these things with you, and I will see you all again very soon. If you guys like this video, hit the little like, hit subscribe, and hit the little bell icon if you want to receive videos every time I post. I am on Instagram, Twitter, Amazon, and Goodreads, and so those links are in the description below, and I will see you all again very soon.